Driving a Porsche is often seen as the ultimate status symbol, driven by successful doctors, lawyers, or Miami course sellers. But Porsche isn't just reserved for the top 1%. There's options for every single budget, whether it's $5,000 or millions upon millions of dollars. Today, we will be covering the best Porsche for every single budget. Up first at $5,000, we have the first generation Porsche Cayenne. However, there is a caveat as repairs might cost more than the actual car itself. But what can you really expect for $5,000? To get one for as low as $5,000, it might have pretty high miles or be in rough shape, but for $5,000, this is a pretty darn good looking SUV. And don't worry, this is the last SUV on the list, so sports cars from here on out. Next up at $10,000, we have the Porsche Boxster, specifically the 986 generation, but you can find some newer 987s around $10,000. The Porsche Boxster gets its name from the Boxer engine that it uses. And although the Boxster is not regarded that highly by enthusiasts, it did save Porsche from financial difficulties in the late 90s and sold extremely well. Next up at $25,000, we're finally getting into the 911s with the 996 911. Will it have high miles? Yes. Does it also have the most undesirable headlights out of any 911? Also yes. However, bang for your buck, value for money, this is a pretty good pick. The 996 was the first ever water-cooled 911, ending a 34-year run of air-cooled 911s. Along with the Boxster, the 996 sold extremely well, selling over 175,000 units in its 9-year lifespan, and produced one of the most iconic movie vehicles of all time, Sally from Cars. Next up, $50,000, and this is a pretty hard choice. I'm split between two equally great but very different cars. The 997 911 Carrera and the early years of the 718 Cayman S. The 997 911 is 100% way more iconic and one of the best generations of the 911 ever, but the 718 Cayman S is just way newer and all around a great sports car. However, both are going to have pretty high miles at this price point. And this might make some people upset, but we're going based off the best car, which is the 718 Cayman S. Now, personally, at this price, I wouldn't take the 718 Cayman S over the 997 911 Carrera, but the 718 is just a better car. And I really don't like that it is a 4-cylinder, but it still pushes out 350 horsepower. It's mid-engine and did the Nürburgring in 7 minutes, 46 seconds, which makes it faster than the 997 GT3 RS. It handles incredibly well and overall is a very good entry-level Porsche. Moving on to $75,000, this is where things start to get fun with a lot more options opening up for us, like the 991 Carrera S and 4S, older 993 models, which isn't going to outperform the new ones, but they are very, very iconic, the 997 Turbo S, and some 930 911 models, which in my opinion is the most iconic model of all time and some of the best looking cars ever produced. But overall, the best Porsche at this price point is the 997 Turbo S. It has 530 horsepower, goes 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, looks incredible, is practical, and has a top speed of 195 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest cars released in that era. Moving on to $100,000. The options open up even more at this price point with some higher mileage 991 Turbo S's, some pretty rough condition 991.1 GT3s, the Cayman GT4, and even some 992 Carreras, although it is pretty rare to find them at this price point and they're usually poverty spec. But the best Porsche for $100,000 has to be the Cayman GT4. The Cayman GT4 has to be one of the most underrated Porsche models out there. People just see it as a little brother to the 911, but this thing is a valid sports car. And I promise I'm not glazing the Cayman here, but the bang for your buck is hard to ignore. It did the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 40 seconds, lapping faster than cars costing twice or 3 times as much. Next up, $150,000. This is where things start to get really interesting. There's a ton of great choices, but which one's the best? At first, I was going to go with the 991.1 GT3. But after spending a pretty solid amount of time reading through forums and owner comparisons, the 992 Carrera T is the best car at this price point. It's incredibly driver-focused, the lightest Carrera of this generation, turbocharged and only available in manual. And on top of that, you can get one with essentially just delivery miles for just under $150,000. So basically brand new. Next up, $200,000. At $200,000, there's even more options, and I promise I am not glazing the Cayman, but the best car at this price point is the Cayman GT4 RS. I also promise this is the last Cayman on the list, so don't worry. And I'm not gonna lie, this one was very tough. There's a lot of good choices, like a really good condition 991 Turbo S or a 991.2 GT3. But in the end, the Cayman GT4 RS is the best pick. It's the most aggressive driving and looking on the list. It's the top trim of the Cayman, and although it's not as extreme as its older brother, the GT3 RS, it's a hell of a car for your money. It's also quick around the track, doing the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 9 seconds, making it faster than the 992 GT3 and the AMG GTR Pro. It also makes 500 horsepower, revs to 9,000 RPM, and in my opinion, looks incredibly aggressive for the $200,000 price point. Next up, $250,000, which I have combined with $300,000 because they're essentially all the same cars, just different condition and specs. And this one might be a little bit controversial. It comes down to the 991.2 GT3 RS and the 992 GT3. And the winner is 992 GT3 by a tiny margin. That might make some people upset, but overall it is the better car. It's newer, it's more comfortable than the 991.2 GT3 RS. It's more drivable on the streets, and it is just as fast around the track, having essentially the same exact Nürburgring time. However, personally, if I had this money sitting in my bank account, I would take the 991.2 GT3 RS over the 992 GT3 just because of the looks and how iconic it is. But the 992 GT3 is technically the better car. Moving on to $400,000. There's really only one pick here, and it's pretty obvious. The 992 GT3 RS. Does this car even really need an explanation? Probably not. The 3RS is loved by pretty much everybody, whether it's TikTok kids or enthusiasts that have been driving Porsches for 50 years. It's the most extreme trim of the 992 generation so far, and is incredibly driver and track focused. It has more power and aero than the 992 GT3, did the Nürburgring in 10 seconds faster, which is on par with multi-million-dollar hypercars like the McLaren P1. It also has DRS, which, how can you not love DRS? It's awesome. Moving on to $500,000, there's some incredible options here and some of, in my opinion, the coolest Porsches ever built. We have the Speedster, the 997 GT3 RS, as well as the Sport Classic, which are all great options, but there's only one right answer. The 991.2 GT2 RS. The GT2 RS overall is one of the best Porsches ever built. For the GT2 RS, Porsche took the GT3 RS concept and made it even more extreme. Porsche turbocharged the car to make 700 horsepower, upgraded the aero, and built a car that's genuinely scary to drive. Somewhat reminiscent of the Widowmakers of their early days. Moving on to $750,000. There's pretty much only one car available around this price. The 992 ST. I personally think the 992 ST is overvalued at this price. Yes, it's rare. They only built 1,963 of them, but for $750,000, this is not that much more extreme than cars that are at like the $200,000 price point. And it doesn't mean there's nothing special about this car. It is the lightest 911 of this generation, weighing at just over 3,000 pounds. It's incredibly driver focused not on track driving, but rather mountain, windy road driving, which I think is pretty cool. It also shares some styling aspects like the air ducts, as well as the engine from the GT3 RS, as well as being only available in manual. So it's not to say this car isn't cool and a great car. I just think for $750,000, it's a little bit overvalued. But the market is insane right now, so who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Moving on to seven figures, we have the $1 million price point, which interestingly enough, there's almost nothing available at this price, like at all. So a bit of an oddball one here with cars that aren't from factory. Gunther Works and Singer both offer resto mods that are both sporty as well as insanely good looking at around $1 million. And combining new school performance with old school looks is pretty hard to beat. And although they are still a Porsche at heart, they get an asterisk for the $1 million price range. Next up at $1.5 million, we have a car that would have been perfect for the $1 million price range just a couple years ago. The Carrera GT, with only 1,270 units ever being built. It had a 5.7 liter naturally aspirated V10 that was originally designed to race in Formula One. It made 612 horsepower and had a manual transmission that was at a pretty interesting angle. It's known as one of, if not the last true analog supercar ever, and is arguably the best driver-focused car in the world. Next up, $2 million, which brings us to the only hypercar from Porsche. The 918 Spider. Only 918 units were ever built. It made 842 horsepower, did a sub 10-second quarter mile time, and was a member of the Holy Trinity. Need I say more? At $3 million, the even more extreme version of the 918 Spider, the Wysock Edition 918 Spider, which takes the 918 and makes it even more extreme. Upgraded aero, weight reduction, and only 230 units ever built, which makes it even more desirable than the already very desirable 918 Spider. And with that, we wrap up the sort of normal Porsche cars, but there is still one left, and it's located around $10 million. The 911 GT1 Strassen version. But good luck trying to find one for sale. These things are rare. The 911 GT1 Strassen version is a homologation special of the legendary 911 GT1 race car, making it the only road legal mid-engine 911 ever built. With only 25 units rumored to exist, this thing is basically unicorn status. And if you ever see one, please DM me a picture on Instagram because I would love to see it. I've never seen one and I maybe never will. Thanks for sticking around. If you think there's a better car that I did not include or I messed up, please make your arguments down in the comments. I would love to hear them. Subscribe, check out some other videos around here, and I'll see you in the next one.